Hello, welcome to Labor News at Work. Today is May the 7th, 2025. I'm Merrick Masters, Professor of Business Emeritus, commentator and podcaster. You can find me at my email address and YouTube channel. Today's episode deals with the continuing erosion in labor's position in the United States. It implies a question, namely, what can labor unions do to reverse the continual decline in their position and power, that I plan to address in a later episode. We'll take a look at union membership trends, major strikes, organizing activity based on National Labor Relations Board certification elections, and recent economic indicators to show a profile of the economy right now. And also we'll take a look at the status of the National Labor Relations Board under President Trump in terms of presidential appointees. Union membership historically has declined from over 30% in 1960 to less than 10% in 2024. That's more than a 2/3 drop in union density during this time period, and it has been continual. This table here compares union membership in percentage terms and in total numbers between 2023 and 2024. The last column shows the percentage change in industry union membership, and that is indicating that across major industries, 11 of them in fact, you saw a union membership drop in this one-year time period, continuing the long-term trend. I think it's also important to note that union membership is heavily concentrated in the public sector and in the education and health services area, where nearly 64% of the union members in the United States work. Major strikes, this is January through March of this year. There have only been a handful involving a relatively small number of employees compared to the overall size of the workforce. And one of the things you can see if you look at some of the details of this in terms of where these strikes have occurred, which are reported in the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, which I provided here, 8 major strikes have occurred in 2025. That's a small number from a historical perspective. 4 are in the private sector, 2 of which are in healthcare, and 4 are in the public sector. This continues to show in a different way the balkanization of unions as in terms of their heavy concentration in the public sector and education and health services. Organizing activity based on union certification elections under the National Labor Relations Board. What you have here are statistics from the fiscal year 2024, which showed that there were a total of almost 1,800 elections. Unions won 73% of them, and there were a total of 121,000 plus workers involved to vote in those elections. And certification elections per se, you had 106,000 elections, workers eligible to vote. And that is a drop in the bucket. It's less than 0.1% of the workforce in the private sector in the US as of April 2025. This is not a viable way based on these numbers for the unions to try and grow membership. And you can see from this 10-year trend right here that the number of certification elections has remained relatively flat. It dropped in the pandemic era, but it's been flat for a considerable period of time. Here are economic indicators of recent months. Unemployment has remained relatively low at between 4 and 4.2%. Inflation index has declined over this time period. Average hourly private sector wages have gone up. It's fluctuated a bit, but they continue to go up. Manufacturing employment has remained flat, and motor vehicle and parts employment has dipped a little bit during this time period. Real GDP contracted in the first quarter of this year, and the Dow Jones Industrial has been erratic since January. In January, it was over, and in February, it went over 45K, or right at about 45K. And in April, as a result of the volatility due to the uncertainty over tariffs, it dropped to 37,000, and now it's back up to 41,000 plus. The National Labor Relations Board under President Trump has 3 board vacancies. Trump appointed the current acting general counsel. He appointed also the chair of the National Labor Relations Board, but it doesn't have a sufficient number of members to decide cases. And the acting general counsel also rescinded several prior general counsel memos, which are reported in an announcement on February the 14th, 2025, if you go to its website. This appendix has sources of various data that are presented, particularly with regard to economic indicators. This slide tells you a little bit about myself. I hope you've enjoyed this update. I'll continue to provide you more and be addressing the topic of what labor needs to do to reverse its long-term decline, which has significant economic and political implications for the country. Thank you and have a good day.